Walker Buehler set Dodgers social media abuzz with an Instagram post, but as Sigmund Freud said, sometime an Insta is just an Insta. We'll talk about Buehler's future, we'll talk about Gavin Lux's future, and we'll talk about Commissioner Fred Rodman's latest stupid idea. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers, our World Series champion everydayers for being with us every weekday morning. And thanks to those of you who are with us live here on Monday evening. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snider. That guy next to me is my co-host, Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong fans of the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, just like most of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room over the past decade, so we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And Vince, this was a no big news like the Blake Snell news, no big news like the Tommy Edman news, but there were some things that got the world buzzing. A lot of the talk today in Dodgerland was still about those Arenado and Correa rumors that we talked about yesterday. We got some good feedback from listeners who, let's just say Dodger fans, at least the ones I've interacted with, are not anywhere near ready to forgive and forget when it comes to Carlos Correa, and I understand that.
Yeah, like I said yesterday, I don't have any influence, or I don't try to have influence, and I don't fault anyone for not. I think I might be in the realm of the evil empire at this point for the Dodgers. Like, just go out and win at all costs, and I don't care about anything else. So.
Yeah, I did decide for me what it would take would literally be Correa having a public press conference where he just admitted and apologized to everything and ended with, "I'm sorry to Clayton Kershaw for what I did to your career, and let's make up for it by going and winning two more to make up for the one that we stole from you guys." And then Kershaw walking out, putting his arm around him and saying, "I forgive you, buddy. Let's do this." And then I think enough Dodger fans will get on board, and obviously that's not going to happen. I don't think Correa has it in him to show the necessary contrition to satisfy Dodger fans. But the closest thing we got to news today was Walker Buehler posting something on Instagram, just a picture of himself, his pose after winning the World Series, and I guess kind of a "what's up now?" And what did he say on the Instagram post? Who better than WB? Just touting himself. And I don't know if it's because just last week Blake Snell posted a picture of himself in a Dodger uniform, and that was meaningful, that people really wanted to read meaning into the fact that Walker Buehler posted a picture of himself in a Dodger uniform. But that's just what Walker Buehler looks like. That's his baseball look, because he's been a Dodger his entire career. So I think not much to read into that, unfortunately, because I would love to have Buehler back in Dodger blue.
Yeah, if I was a player, an athlete, I would probably be trolling all the time. Like, there's some guys that do that, and some guys that, maybe don't. But Walker Buehler is the one guy for sure on the Dodgers that, him and Kike Hernandez, I guess, would be the two guys where they post something and I'm not sure if they're trolling or not. Like, not that it was a troll, but Kike tweeted about smelling your AirPods today. Like, these guys there's nothing to do now. Those guys are both free agents, and I'm sure they're waiting on teams, or they're reaching out to teams, or however it goes. And for Buehler, if I had a picture as cool as that one closing out the World Series, I probably would post it every week and say something else about it. So
yeah, absolutely. It's one of the, it's a great moment in Dodger history, and obviously a great moment in his life. We've been looking lately at what's been going on with the pitching market, and maybe that was just him posting, like, celebrating, hey, my price tag's going up, because Frankie Montas just got, what was it, 2 years, $34 million?
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say that Walker Buehler is a better pitcher than Frankie Montas, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, at their peak for sure, and even right now, I guess it's hard to think. If you throw everything out from the regular season and just look at Walker Buehler in the postseason and what his stuff looked like, then yeah, definitely a better pitcher than Frankie Montas. If you look at peaks, then yeah, definitely Walker Buehler. And if you look at, what probably future prospects, yeah, I would say Walker Buehler for sure. Matthew Boyd got 2 years, 29 mil from the Cubs, and he had one good postseason start and maybe a couple good postseason starts and a decent season, but he's not a guy that's been durable or a workhorse by any means. And it's for Buehler. I guess it just depends what teams. If he was going to arbitration and the Dodgers had to argue against him, it's very easily to make that argument against him. Well, hey, yeah, you were great in the postseason in 2 games, but you also weren't great in one, and you avoid the defense letting you down a little bit, and you weren't good at all during the regular season, other than like 2 starts. But if you're somebody going into free agency, then all it takes is one team to believe in you, and you for sure have the Dodgers that believe in him. But that I think Rosenthal mentioned in his article that the Dodgers maybe didn't extend in a qualifying offer because they didn't want to mess up his market as a do good to him. And we've seen the Dodgers do that before, and we've seen the Dodgers do different things to kind of make right by their players, even when they don't have to. So I appreciate that as a Dodger fan, and it's not going to cost the Dodgers much, especially if they want to bring him back.
Yeah, and that definitely, it does fit right in with what we know they did with Clayton Kershaw. I see a comment in the chat saying that Montas is getting paid based on a big second half, but I'm not seeing that backed up in the numbers. Like, depends on how you define second half, but after the All-Star break, he had a 5.43 ERA. After he was traded to the Brewers, it was still 4.55. So, I'm not seeing a big second half. I think it's just the price for pitching is high right now. And I'm interested to see what happens if guys like Buehler do end up having to wait until after Roki Sasaki signs, which is weird because Sasaki, has never pitched in the big leagues, isn't going to take a lot of money, but I think there might be teams that are thinking, if we're really in the Sasaki market, then maybe we don't need Walker Buehler or, guys in that tier. And so maybe it is, I don't know, if Sasaki's not going to sign until at least January 15th. But then you do have Montas and Boyd and Yusei Kikuchi signing, who are more that mid-tier, closer to what Buehler is. So maybe he will get something soon. But it seems like every offseason we end up with a lot of free agents waiting for, a couple of years ago as well. Got to wait for Harper and Machado to sign. And then Harper and Machado didn't sign until February or March or whatever. And it held up everything, and last year guys held themselves up, all the Boris clients. So I wonder how much Juan Soto and Roki Sasaki are going to hold up the offensive players and the pitchers respectively this offseason.
Yeah, I guess it depends if you're in the Roki Sasaki market, which I would imagine every team would want to be in that market. But you might have to go to a 6-man rotation or really be creative with it. So if that's the case, you might as well sign somebody else like a Walker Buehler or whoever to be in that rotation. So, we've heard interest from the Yankees. We just heard interest from the Mets, even after the Frankie Montas signing. So, there's probably a market out there for Walker Buehler. And at the end of the day, I think it will come down to, the Dodgers probably have an offer or know what an offer to him would look like. Can't imagine it would be anything more than a couple of years and, probably around 20 million a year or maybe a little bit less if they go, a couple of years in an option or whatever it is. But I think for Buehler, it kind of sucks because this would have been, if he didn't get another surgery and he had pitched the way he had been pitching before, this would have been, he would have been Corbin Burns would have been probably 1 and 2 on the market, and Blake Snell as well, just in a little bit different of the market. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But obviously the Dodgers, I would imagine, are still open to bringing Walker Buehler back, and but at the very least, if they don't, he doesn't have the attachment of the qualifying offer and those penalties, and I would imagine he's going to get at least 2 years somewhere.
Yeah, it's hard to see him taking a 2-year deal though, because at his age, it's like this is his one chance, unless 2 years is the most anybody offers
Yeah,
him.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. Like, I don't think it'll be more.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure. Uh, quickly give me your percentage. How likely is that Buehler's back with the Dodgers next year?
35%.
Really, I still think 57.1%. So we're going to come back in a minute. We're going to talk about another longtime Dodger who his future is up in the air. That's Gavin Lux. We're digging into that. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. I love sports. I love concerts. I love comedy shows. The thing they all have in common is buying tickets, and that means the other thing they have in common is you can find the best price on Gametime. I was just on Gametime the other day looking for a Christmas present. I can't say what I was looking for because the person I was shopping for may be listening to this podcast, but let's just say I was looking for tickets, and Gametime did, in fact, have the best prices, just like they guarantee they will. Gametime also has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You also have the option of turning on all-in pricing, which will show you the total prices upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. And with Gametime Guarantee, you'll always get the lowest price, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets to your favorite events with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. We are back. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks to our everydayers. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. You can obviously make that easy on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. We are consistent through the season, through the off season, through the postseason, whatever season we're in. It's always Locked On Dodgers season, so be sure to check that out. You can also go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Text direct with us, have conversation. I had a conversation with a new insider today on our insiders group about Rancho Cucamonga and why people abbreviate it to Rancho when Rancho is the generic word in the name. It's like if you called Las Vegas Las instead of Vegas. It's like lots of cities start with Rancho. Cucamonga is a unique name. Bugs Bunny had it right. Bugs Bunny talked about Cucamonga, not about Rancho. So I had a conversation about that today with one of our insiders from Rancho Cucamonga. So, that's what you get in the insiders group. Also, remember, you can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles on YouTube. And for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB, hosted by our buddy Paul Francis Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully. So I've been thinking about Gavin Lux a lot lately, Vince. And, I think about Gavin Lux a lot.
I was going to say lately or?
Yeah, just in general. Yeah. And, Mookie Betts is moving back to the infield. Seems like second base is the most likely position. Dino Ebel was on, Dodgers territory the other day, talking about how he sees a gold glove at second base and Mookie Betts' future. All signs point to Mookie Betts being the Dodgers starting second baseman in 2025, which was Gavin Lux's job last year. Now, the only reason it was Gavin Lux's job was because Lux couldn't handle shortstop, couldn't make the throws in spring training, but also he had been off for a year because of a knee injury. We saw him, even his throws from second base to first base, started the season. I don't think he would have a super great arm at shortstop, but I suspect that if they put him at shortstop right now, he wouldn't have the same problems that he had the last spring, especially, by the time this coming spring training rolls around, it'll be, another full year getting ready, getting more comfortable with his knee. We saw him get comfortable with the knee later in the season on offense, all those things. So I've just been wondering, and I thought we'd have a conversation about it. Do you think Gavin Lux gets a shot at shortstop for the Dodgers? Or do you think maybe they look at him, put him back in the outfield and put him as a utility guy, something like that? Or do you think Gavin Lux is trade bait this offseason?
I think Gavin Lux is trade bait this offseason. I think the Dodgers are going to get a shortstop somehow, and I don't think Gavin Lux is in the future plans. And I don't necessarily know if that's exactly what I want to happen. I'm not advocating for it. But it's one of those where the list of excuses for Gavin Lux, keeps getting longer. Like, oh, he was young and they were moving him around, and then, he had a decent season and then he got hurt and now he's recovering from that. And, if you look at the overall sense of his career, I mean, he's played in 412 games. He has a OPS plus of 96. And again, like I said, there's a long list of excuses/reasons you can make. But at the end of the day, like, what matters is what you do when you are on the field. And do I think he can have a really good year next year and, be one more year away from the injury and show what he did in those like 2 months he did after the All-Star break? Yeah, probably. But are the Dodgers in position to kind of wait for that? I don't think so. Like, I guess I'll say more of this. I think if they have a chance to get a legit shortstop and it costs Gavin Lux in that trade or in another trade or something else, I don't think they hesitate to do it.
Yeah, I just wonder who that shortstop would be, because it's like, if we've ruled out Correa, which I think we have, Willy Adames is really the only shortstop on the free agent market, so that's a possibility. I saw a comment in the chat earlier about how they should trade for a young shortstop, but one of the names they listed was Ellie De La Cruz. Ellie De La Cruz isn't going to get traded. I was joking. I was on with Clint earlier on All Dodgers, and I joked that maybe the Cardinals would include Mason Wynn in a Nolan Arenado trade. That's the thing. Like, it's hard to get a good shortstop, and people are saying, well, you don't need to get somebody long term because you have Alex Freeland coming up, and like, Alex Freeland isn't as good in the minor leagues as Gavin Lux was in the minor leagues. So it's like, he's a different type of player, but he's not a sure thing is what I'm saying. I'm not saying Alex Freeland isn't going to be good, but he's definitely not a sure thing. And so, I wonder if they're going to do something that just comes out of nowhere. One of the other names that comment mentioned was, Bo Bichette, still a possibility on the trade, on the trading block, if the Dodgers surprises something like that, or even somebody more surprising, somebody who just hasn't even been talked about as being on the trading block, but the Dodgers just decide, hey, we want this guy. They go to that team and say, hey, we'll give you 6 prospects for your guy, and make something happen. Or maybe we'll give you Gavin Lux and 3 prospects, so you have your replacement and you're building, because the fact is you don't necessarily need a really good shortstop if you're rebuilding, if you're, it seems to me like the more I've been thinking about it, I feel like whoever the starting shortstop is for the Dodgers at the start of 2025 is going to be somebody whose name we haven't said on this podcast right now.
Yeah. I was looking at the list of shortstops and a few different things, and I wish the Cubs are such a weird team, because like a guy like Dansby Swanson would be similar in like the Correa boat, or even different, where it's a long-term contract, not as long as some other guys, but a long-term contract, not that expensive. If the Cubs pay it down, they could get some better prospects. And that like could make sense for the Dodgers, like strong defensively. And when you can have him bat 7, 8, 9 in a lineup offensively, then, his numbers might stand out a little bit more, be a little better. But again, the Cubs just paid Matthew Boyd $29 million over 2 years. So like, I don't know what they're doing. So like, that would have been a name before that signing where it's like, okay, that's interesting. I know they want to trade Bellinger. They probably want to get out from some of this money, or maybe get out from some money in order to make a run at, and probably run at Soto, like something like that. Like, that's kind of, out of the box, out of the ordinary. And I think that's kind of where I'm at, where we look at the list of named shortstops, and it's kind of hard because there's a lot of young shortstops right now, and teams aren't necessarily looking to trade those. But a guy like, like I said, Dansby Swanson, we talked about Correa, guys like that are, kind of in that next tier age-wise, could make sense for teams that are maybe trying to cut payroll or something like that.
Yeah, it could be interesting. The Pirates moved O'Neal Cruz to the outfield. Maybe the Dodgers could sign Tony Watson and then trade him to the Pirates for O'Neal Cruz. I'm interested to see what happens. But specifically with Gavin Lux, it's like, if he's not their starting shortstop, it seems like he's probably trade bait, right?
He doesn't play defense well enough at enough positions to really like make sense for the roster if he's not a starter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Like they played him in the outfield. He was okay. But and I'm sure, athletically, like we said, even back then, like he tried to do it mid-season. If they called him today and said, "You're our starting left fielder next year," I think he'd probably be fine in left field. But I don't know that his bat is big enough to be a left fielder. Like to really stick in the outfield, you have to be the center fielder. Right? I think that's where his offensive profile fits, and I don't know that he has starting center fielder in him defensively.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting. We'll see what happens with Lux and see who Andrew Friedman surprises us with at shortstop. We're gonna come back in a minute. Speaking of surprises, surprise, Commissioner Fred Rodman said something dumb. We're gonna talk about that. So thanks again for making us your first listen, and please keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. I was looking at the FanDuel odds, and Vince has told us there's always money in the banana stand, and there's always money in betting against the Raiders. Vince says that the way only a Raiders fan can say it, because nobody hates the Raiders like a Raiders fan. And currently for Sunday, the Raiders playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are -320 favorites, pretty big favorites. So if you're looking for a relatively safe bet for your first $5 bet, just to get your bonus bets, bet on the Bucs, $5. You win that, and then you get $150 in bonus bets over at FanDuel.com. You get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. So never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We are back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Thanks for being with us every day. Thanks for being with us live tonight. Good stuff going on in the chat. We appreciate that. Thank you for being a Locked On Dodgers insider if you are. If you're not, just check out joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers, and be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube. So Jason Stark had an article on The Athletic about an idea that Rob Manfred was talking about. And it's not like Rob Manfred said that, before I tell you the idea, I'm going to say a disclaimer. It's not like Manfred said this is imminent or even likely. But as Jason Stark pointed out, the fact that Rob Manfred mentioned this out loud means that it's farther along in the process than I wish it was. And that idea is what they call it, the golden batter, some dumb name like that. Basically, the idea is that every team would get one time a game where you get to choose who bats in any given at bat. So, for example, if you are down by 3 runs and you have bases loaded in the 9th inning and 2 outs, and you have Chris Taylor coming to the plate, you can say, actually, I'd rather have Shohei Ohtani up, or Freddie Freeman. It's hard for me to put into words, Vince, what a dumb idea this is for Major League Baseball. This is the kind of thing. Savannah Bananas, great. Banana ball is meant to be fun. I think that's awesome idea for that. Backyard wiffle ball, for sure. But Major League Baseball, like, it might be the dumbest idea I've ever heard said out loud.
Well, to be fair, we don't know it's his idea, so I'll give him that. He might have just mentioned that's been discussed.
Hey, if he didn't shoot it down, it's his problem. It's like, Jose Altuve said, I didn't use the trash cans. Well, you didn't stop it either, Jose, and you didn't stop it, Robert.
Yeah. For regular game, regular game, yes. I think if if MLB is gonna continue on with the way extra innings is in the regular season, I wouldn't mind seeing some different variation of that. Like you can set your 3 hitters for the 9th inning or something like that. I think maybe that's what this could lead to. I wouldn't be upset with that just for the simple fact, like at that point, best on best is a little bit more fair than just random, hitters versus random hitters. If you want, again, with the premise of the idea being the golden hitter rule, I don't like that. But if it led to a little bit different of the extra innings, if you're going to keep, obviously, and that's what they are, they're keeping that rule. I don't think I would mind that 100%. Like, I think it'd be cool. It'd be, every other sport has some weird little quirk in overtime and at least in or extra time, whatever it is, in the regular season. But then you're getting close to, well, now like ties become part of like your standings, and then you maybe introduce point system, and then you don't want to go too far. But I don't know. I don't like the rule, but if it varied into it like a different rule for extra innings, I think I might like.
Well, folks, congratulations on catching the last episode of Locked On Dodgers, because I don't know if I can coexist with somebody saying this isn't the worst idea in the history of the world. No, for me, like that was part of what Jason Stark talked about in the article, was like, well, in the NFL, you get, Patrick Mahomes has the ball, and don't you want your best players in the NBA? You can choose who takes a shot. Steph Curry gets to take that shot when it matters most. Don't you want to give that at bat to Shohei Ohtani or Mike Trout or whoever? And for me, like, this is my stance basically on every proposed rule changes. Anything that is a change solely to make baseball more like other sports, I'm against, because baseball is different than other sports and it's supposed to be different. And, the fact is, like, the beauty of baseball is that you have to get out the guys who are in the lineup. And it's just like, oh, well, it happened to be, I got Shohei Ohtani out in the 8th inning. Why should I have to get him out in the 9th inning too? The whole point of getting him out in the 8th inning was so you don't have to face him again this game. I just feel like this is the only positive for it, is getting more of those moments, but baseball is a 162 game season. You don't need those, because that's what Jason Stark said in the article. He's like, think back to Shohei Ohtani against Mike Trout in the WBC. Why wouldn't we want more of those moments? You can't have 162 moments a season. You like the beauty of baseball is that sometimes you beat the Diamondbacks 8-2 on a Tuesday night and you forget about it by Wednesday afternoon. That, like, the beauty of a long season, you don't need that drama. You can't sustain that drama. We talk all the time, Vince, about, the joy of the 6-month season and the ups and downs and the relaxed pace of the baseball season. And I think this would all be trying to manufacture that 17 game NFL season drama in 162 games. And you can't do that. I guess maybe if they said every 10 games you get to do it, I'd be a little bit closer to being on board, because that is more like the pace of an NFL season, but overall, no, like it's a solution in search of a problem. Like, has anybody ever thought, well, I hate the fact that the closer struck out the guy who was in the lineup? No, like it's looking for trying to manufacture one specific bit of drama to fix a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah, like I said, I agree for that in the sense of innings 1 through 9. I only think that it would be not too bad in extra innings, and that's really the only way I don't think it's a bad idea. If it was like extra innings and okay, you set your 3, but then you go, then it's like, okay, if nobody scores or you guys score the same amount in the 10th, then what goes on in the, like, obviously it leads to a lot of different things that you would have to think of. So, but it's one of those where, let's just say, if the fact that he's mentioned it means that's been talked about, which means that, owners want maybe people to wait or stay until the 9th inning of games. So, owners wouldn't mind having a rule where, oh, Shohei Ohtani might bat again in the 9th inning, or, oh, so-and-so might bat again in the 9th inning. So that's where maybe it comes from on their end. And it's one of those, well, if it's already going to happen, then maybe push it out of the regular 9 innings. And then it's just kind of compensating for, okay, if it's going to happen, let's not make it happen in the first, like, regular things.
I think we're early enough in the process that if all of us tell Rob Manfred what an idiot he is, that we can keep this one out of it. I would rather just go to end the game after 9 innings and decide the winner based on a home run derby. that's at least not still pretending to be baseball. It's like, okay, the game ended. Now we're going to do something different to determine who the winner is. That's a stupid idea too, but it's less stupid than this one. What they ought to do is just play baseball until the baseball game ends. But, they've already decided not to do that. But yeah, I just, when I got to the point in the article that was like, well, the NFL and the NBA do it, so why shouldn't Major League Baseball? I said, well, that's not a good enough reason for me, my perspective is probably different because, as you know, I don't care about those other leagues, and that's because I believe those sports are inferior. I think that baseball or basketball and football are worse sports than baseball, and so don't do things to try to make baseball more like those inferior sports.
Yeah, again, with owners, it comes down to money, and you would love to be like the NFL if you're an MLB owner because, the NFL, the shield is essentially indestructible at this point. Like people are watching, like no one's really watching Pirates, Blue Jays on a random Tuesday, but, you put the Raiders and some other bad team on a Thursday and a lot of people are going to watch. So I'm not advocating for this rule in any sense of the word, but it's one of those where, okay, if this is something being mentioned, let me try to find a way I could stomach it where it wouldn't feel too much of a gimmick or like banana ball. And that's where like the extra inning part comes in. But ultimately, I don't want any of this. Every other rule change so far, other than the extra inning rule, which at this point, it's, you kind of live with it. But, the games are faster now. I don't mind that. If they finally get, robot balls and strikes, I'm going to be fine with that. The DH in both leagues, I love that. I don't really care, like baseball purist or not. Like, I don't care about that. I'd rather, the Dodgers would not have Shohei Ohtani if they didn't make that rule. So,
yeah, this is, there was reasons for all those, and that's what it boils down to. Like, that baseball is better when you don't have a guy who can't hit batting every nine batters. Whether you like the DH or not, it's more entertaining having a guy who can hit than a guy who can't hit. But all this one, like I said, it's a solution in search of a problem. So, all right, we can continue the podcast then. You effectively, backtracked a little bit, so, but
that was my first point. If it was extra innings,
I know.
Not anything beyond that now.
All right. I call a truce. All right. You got anything else for today, Vince?
No, we're getting closer to winter meeting, so I think stuff might start happening.
Yeah, 3 more episodes this week, and then the winter meetings. So, maybe get some news this week before the winter meetings. Definitely start getting news at the winter meetings. Hopefully some Dodgers news, but definitely baseball news. So that'll do it for us for today. Thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Thanks for being every day, or if you're not, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning and make that easier on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. Be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube, 224/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network. You can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and both of our DMs are open there. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message at 323-863-LOCK, 5625. We are here every weekday morning. We hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.